In this video, I would like to talk about how the software processes the actions and conditions in a tree. Here on the screen we have a spot where small blind bets, and big blind now gets to decide between raising, calling and folding. He decides to raise if he holds 2 pair or better, a flush draw, an 8-out straight draw or overcards. If he does not hold one of these hands, then he will just call with top pair or better or a gut shot. And if he holds none of these hands, then he will fold. When the software performs an EV run and decides to which action a hand should be assigned, it will go down the list of conditions from top to bottom. So it will start with the top action, and here it will start with the first condition, where in this case it will check if the hand that it's processing is 2 pair or better. If not, then it will move on to the next condition, where it will check if the hand is a flush draw. And in that manner it will move down the list of conditions. If none of the conditions in the top action have been found to be true, then the software will move on to the next action. And there it will again move down the list of conditions. And if none of those conditions turn out to be true either, then the software will move on to the fold action, where all the remaining hands are folded. By the way, it's for this reason that you should always make your last action apply to all hands, so that this last action will always be accepted. So let's say that we hold Queen Jack of Spades here, which is both a flush draw, an 8-out straight draw and overcards. So it applies to all 3 of these conditions. When the software runs Queen Jack of Spades down the list of conditions, it will find that the flush draw condition is true. And it will then immediately move on to the next decision, and it will continue with the hand there. None of the actions and conditions below the accepted condition will be checked anymore. So in this tree, Queen Jack of Spades will be assigned under the flush draw condition, even though it's also true for an 8-out straight draw and overcards. This is because the flush draw condition has been given a higher priority than the other ones, due to it being placed above them in the list. So if I bring up the program and calculate this tree, we'll see that if I mouse over the flush draw condition, that Queen Jack of Spades has indeed been placed there. While if I mouse over the 8-out straight draw condition, it's missing here. And it's also not included in the overcards condition. In fact, there aren't any Queen Jack hands in the overcards condition, since all Queen Jack hands were already accepted by the 8-out straight draw condition. And were I to switch the order of the conditions, which I can do by clicking on one and then the other, and I've placed the 8-out straight draw condition above the flush draw condition now. Let's recompute. And now, Queen Jack of Spades is no longer in the flush draw condition, since it has now been assigned to the 8-out straight draw condition. I'll just put the flush draw back on top now. Now the order of your actions matters as well. For example, if I place the call action on top, which I can do by clicking one and then the other, and now the call action is on top, and recompute. And now the at least 2 pair condition will occur 0% of the time. And this is because all hands that were 2 pair or better have already been accepted by the at least top pair condition from the call action. In order to prevent issues like this, you should always order your actions and conditions from strong to weak. So the correct order for your actions is raise, call, fold. Now let's say that we only want to raise with a flush draw 50% of the time. To attach a weight to a condition, go to the editor by double-clicking any condition. Now select the flush draw condition so that we can edit it. And with the flush draw condition selected, click on the weight button and enter the desired weight. And the condition's name has now changed to 50% flush draw. By the way, if you quickly want to edit a condition's weight at this point, then just right-click it, and you'll be able to edit the weight here as well. Okay, let's zoom in. Now, when a condition has a weight, things will work slightly differently. If we now simulate Queen Jack of Spades, then again, the flush draw condition will be found to be true. So 50% of the Queen Jack of Spades hands will move to the next decision. However, the other 50% will immediately skip to the next action. All the conditions in the list below the flush draw condition will be skipped. They will not be checked. This is because the flush draw condition has a higher priority, and it has explicitly told the software that 50% of the flush draw hands should not be accepted by this action. And since a high priority condition has said so, it can't just be overruled by a condition with a low priority. Let's go back to our tree to see this in action. And since Queen Jack of Spades is neither top pair or better, nor a gutshot, it will end up being folded by the fold action. Should we want the other 50% of the flush draws to the call action, then we can do so by adding a flush draw condition to that action. So double click the conditions to edit it, add new condition to list, flush draw, save and close, and recompute. And now the other 50% of the flush draws will be accepted by the call action. Okay, so now we are raising our flush draws 50% of the time and we're calling them the other 50%. Now let's say that we just want 30% of our remaining flush draws under the call action. How would we go about this? Well, given that 50% of the flush draws are moved here, and we want 30%, we'll need to attach a weight of 60% to our second flush draw condition. After all, 60% of 50% is 30%. So now, 50% of the flush draws will be raised, 30% will be called, and the other 20% will be folded. This is an important point to keep in mind if you want to apply multiple weights within one decision. Namely, weights do not have a memory. A flush draw hand that makes it to this point doesn't know how it got here. All it knows is that it needs to check if this condition applies to it. And it's our job to figure out what percentage needs to be set here. So, to sum up this video, actions that are placed higher in a decision will get a higher priority, and the same applies to conditions. And if a condition has a weight, then the fraction of hands that were true but were rejected because of the weight will be moved to the next action. Conditions in the list below the weighted condition will not be checked, because the weighted condition has already told the software that those hands should not be in the action.